Welcome to Friday Mystery Theater, where we take a look at cases of missing people around the world and try to help determine their fate. On today's episode, we take a look at what happened to 19-year-old American vacationer Natalee Holloway. Was she murdered by Joran Sloot? If so, where is her final resting place? And if not, what ultimately became of her? We'll try to answer that today on episode 1 of Mystery Theater. In 2010, Joran Sloot was sentenced to 28 years in prison for the murder of Stephanie Flores Ramirez in Lima, Peru. It wasn't an easy process, with police first having to track Joran down after he'd fled to Chile, and then deal with his retraction of his confession due to claims of intimidation by Peruvian police and FBI framing. But in the end, Stephanie's family got the justice they deserved when Sloot's murder sentence was finally handed down on January 13th, 2012. But the story of Joran Sloot was far from over, as another family waited in the wings for their turn at justice that may never come. 5 years to the day before Stephanie's murder, Joran had been the last person, along with 2 friends, to see the missing Natalee Holloway. Today we take a look at whether we may be dealing with a young man who made a mistake, or a possible serial killer in the making, with more to his body count than his convictions suggest. Joran Sloot was born in Arnhem in the Netherlands, to father Paulus, a lawyer, and mother Anita, an art teacher. In 1990, the family moved to Aruba, where Joran originally appeared to excel as both an academic honor student and star athlete. He wasn't a perfect child, with his own mother admitting he had issues with lying and sneaking out of the house to gamble at local casinos. But issues like these can be common for many kids before they grow up and grow out of it and turn their life around. But on May 30th, 2005, events would be set in motion that would put Joran Sloot in a whole different class of alleged criminality, when 19-year-old American Natalee Holloway went missing while vacationing in Aruba on a high school graduation trip. When Natalee failed to show for her flight home, it was discovered she was last seen by her classmates outside of Oranjestad restaurant Carlos and Charlie's, sitting in a car with local residents Joran Sloot and friends Deepak and Satish Kalpo, themselves brothers. When questioned, the trio stuck to their story that they had dropped Natalee off at her hotel and were unaware of her whereabouts. Natalee's case became a media sensation back in the United States, particularly in her home state of Alabama, where she lived with her parents in the city of Mountain Brook. This led to Joran being arrested twice for questioning, and the Kalpo brothers 3 times each. All 3 men were released each time without charges due to lack of evidence, however, and with all 3 suspects clamming up, things were looking bleak for the case. Despite hundreds of volunteers participating in searches, including FBI special agents, 50 Dutch soldiers, 3 specially equipped Dutch Air Force F-16 aircraft, and even ocean divers, Natalee's remains were never found. On April 27, 2007, a new search began at Sloot's parents' home in Aruba, when over 20 investigators searched the yard and surrounding area, using shovels and rods to also penetrate down into the soil. Again, nothing was found. On November 7th of that same year, Sloot and the Kalpo brothers were again arrested for, quote, suspicion of involvement in voluntary manslaughter and causing serious bodily harm that resulted in the death of Natalee Holloway. But despite more arrests and court hearings, the end result was, again, no charges being filed. And on December 18th of 2007, Aruban prosecutors announced Natalee's case would be closed, without any suspects being charged. However, only about 5 weeks later, cracks in Sloot's armor would finally begin to show, when Joran appeared on Dutch late-night talk show Pauw en Witteman and was challenged by crime reporter Peter R. de Vries as to his involvement in Natalee's disappearance, causing Joran to become enraged enough to throw a glass of red wine in de Vries' face. DeVries would get the last laugh, however, when an undercover video he made aired on television a month later, on February 3rd of 2008, purporting to show Sloot smoking marijuana and admitting to being present during Holloway's death. The show was watched by 7 million viewers in the Netherlands, making it the most popular non-sports program in Dutch television history. The undercover tape was created by a man who had befriended Joran while secretly working undercover for DeVries and recorded him without his knowledge. In the video, Sloot says that Natalee suffered some kind of seizure while having sex on the beach. After he couldn't revive her, he says he called a friend named Dory, and that neither of them phoned for medical help or even bothered to check if she was still alive, before Dory voluntarily loaded Natalee on a boat and dumped her body into the ocean. The video was deemed admissible, but insufficient to warrant any arrests. Joran would later claim he was lying on the tape in order to impress the man, who he believed to be a drug dealer at the time. DeVries wasn't done with Joran yet, however, and in November of 2008, he aired more undercover footage of him, this time making preparations for the apparent sex trafficking of Thai women in Bangkok. According to DeVries, Sloot was allegedly using the alias Murphy Jenkins to avoid Thai authorities, and was making $13,000 for every woman who he sold into prostitution in the Netherlands. He is allegedly still under investigation for his involvement in the disappearance of young women he may have recruited for a Thai sex slave gang, while posing as a production consultant for a modeling agency that would send them to Europe. As previously mentioned, Joran's luck would eventually run out, as karma finally caught up to him and caused his world to come crashing down around him when he was convicted of the murder of Stephanie Flores Ramirez and sentenced to 28 years in prison. But this would still not provide the Holloway family the closure they needed, as her whereabouts and final resting place remain unknown. So did Joran Sloot kill Natalee Holloway? Well, until we receive some kind of final confirmation, I guess that's for you to decide. This has been Friday Mystery Theater. See you next time. Good night.